How's it going, everybody? Brian Elvers and Dave Meltzer here. Wrestling Observer Radio, April 10, 2018. Figure4online.com/WrestlingObserver.com. Here for the post-WrestleMania Raw report and a lot more.
A lot more.
Yeah, a lot of fallout from the WrestleMania show, not the least of which is everything revolving around Brock Lesnar. Yesterday, he beat Roman Reigns for the title. Nobody could figure out what the hell was going on at the time. Today, WWE announces that Brock Lesnar has re-signed with WWE, which apparently is a short-term deal, whatever that means, and he will be facing Roman Reigns at the big show coming up in Saudi Arabia, the Greatest Royal Rumble show. And I guess we'll start with contract info, Dave. What's going on?
There's not a lot of info going other than it's a short-term deal. It allows him to fight in UFC at least once, perhaps more. But if it's a short-term deal, there's probably only need to fight once. It may just be, the thing is it's at least 6 months before he can fight anyway, because he's got to go through 6 months with, USADA testing, and he hasn't gone in for the testing. And it also could be that he has no intention of going back to UFC, and this whole thing has been just a ploy to get a new deal. But if that was the case, he probably would have signed for a longer-term deal. So essentially what you got is that he can he's extended his leverage. You know, they put him over for the championship in an interesting thing, in the sense that almost everybody, this was almost like the Undertaker match a couple years ago, where almost nobody knew. And in this case, again, it was just about, pretty much, I don't know how many people on the inside knew. I know that none of the writers knew. I knew that even the leading producers didn't know. They all thought that Roman Reigns was winning the championship. Roman Reigns was winning the championship. I'm not sure when that changed, but it was late. Could have been in the last week or so. It was not at the last minute, though.
Well, I should note that on this very show last week, we were talking about how interesting it was that Paul Heyman said, if he loses this show on Sunday, you will never see me or him on Raw again. And we thought that's a pretty strong statement for him to make there.
Because he was obviously going to come back at some time. So, yeah. So, Paul
also signed a short-term deal.
Well, Heyman's deal's tied into Lesnar's deal. As long as Lesnar's around, Heyman will be around. There's a chance that Heyman would have been around anyway if they had another role for him. And that was something that's been talked about, but there was nothing signed past that. So they're both in. It could just be that that Vince McMahon thought that it would be better to change the championship on the Saudi Arabia show. I mean, the negative is a lot less people are going to watch that show, both because it's not WrestleMania and because it's on a Friday afternoon. But at the same time, they're really trying to build a relationship with Saudi Arabia for a lot of obvious reasons, and this may be a perk given to them. The other thing is that it was very clear, once again, that he was not going to get the reaction that they desired, Roman Reigns, that is. And they waited years. They did everything they could. It wasn't going to happen. In Saudi Arabia, it may happen. But even if it does, what does it really matter? It's Saudi Arabia. It's not really representative of, the United States or Europe, which is where they really make their money. So, although I guess the Saudi Arabia thing is interesting, because they were asked today at the conference call, exactly what is this Saudi Arabia deal? How much money is involved in this deal? And George Barrios kind of said that we'll talk about that later, but it will be established in the second quarter when this period is run. So it's like in August conference call, because they'll have to talk about it then. So that will be a discussion then. But it was just interesting that he would just say, we're going to have to talk about this one later. They didn't want to deal with that subject right now. So, but it did lead to him mentioning that the YouTube viewing is now 80% outside the United States. It was between 70 and 80% before, but now it's hit 80%. So those numbers, as far as like, relating to popularity in the United States, are pretty much not too significant. And he did mention that even though 80% of their viewing is outside the U.S., only 30% of their revenue is outside the U.S. But he said that instead of saying that means, there's something wrong with that, or perhaps how some people would look and go, well, what's the real value of the YouTube and all this viewing and all this social media, when all the social media, because YouTube's just part of, all the social media numbers come from outside the U.S., while most of the money's from the U.S. And his point is that, well, it just means that we can make more money outside the U.S. that we haven't made yet. We have to just figure out how to make it. So, and there is some viability to that, but, there is that situation. So well,
let's go back to Brock Lesnar here. So what happened after WrestleMania?
He threw the belt against the wall at Vince McMahon, and he was unhappy. The reasons he was unhappy, I don't know what they were, but he was. And Shane McMahon jumped in and kind of wanted to, I don't know if he wanted to fight Brock Lesnar, but he acted like he wanted to fight Brock Lesnar.
Oh, my God.
And Brock and Heyman left the building, and that was it. Nothing happened past that. There were some words exchanged. There was a scene. Now, as far as Shane goes, he could be the words in the belt throw. For all we know, this could be part of this. This could all be a work. Nobody really knows. I mean, the people who were there did not think it was a work, but they also know that they were all worked on the finish. I mean, like literally nobody backstage knew that, he was going to win. The referee did know he wasn't. The referee was told during the match that count the three when it happens. So he knew. I mean, he actually wasn't told that Lesnar was winning, but he was told. He pretty much was told that Lesnar was winning, but not until he was actually in the ring and the match was going on. So that tells you just how far they went with this one. But yeah, everybody else thought that Roman Reigns was going to win. Roman Reigns did a promo on Raw, and I don't know exactly how much of a shoot that was, where he was talking about like not knowing and Vince McMahon not looking him in the eye and all that. But it's obviously a promo because they want you to know. I mean, it was a promo to make you read between the lines, for sure. There was a lot of weird stuff on the show when it came to that, but yeah, that was quite interesting. But
this person here wants to know what's up with Dana then, saying that Brock is coming in.
Yeah. Okay. So he still may be fighting for. In his contract that he signed, it does allow him to do at least one fight, and it's a short-term deal anyway. So he wasn't going to do more than one fight during the period of the contract. So he still may be coming in. It's typical Brock. I mean, it's the same thing from a couple years ago. They thought he was coming in. He's negotiating both sides, and we'll see what happens. He may have no intention of going to UFC and is just using UFC for leverage to get a better pro wrestling deal. Roman Reigns kind of said that in his interview. I mean, he may have, he's 41 years old, almost 41. He'll be 41 in the summer. He at the same time, there's a lot of money to be made in UFC. There's more money to be made in UFC for him than there is in pro wrestling. And his time is running out. So, and he is being offered the winner of Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier at the end of the year. So there was no point in him not wrestling for a little while longer if that fight's not going to be for at least 6 months. So essentially what the short-term deal means is that he's going to be with WWE. He'll make his appearances, and after that, and we're still going to have another situation exactly like this, whatever it is, 6 months from now, whatever the time frame is, where he's going to UFC, and then they're going to negotiate. The negotiation is going to go to the last minute, and then he's going to do whatever he's going to do, which may be stay with WWE again, and he may not fight. But I mean, the thing that I find kind of weird is I can get why, UFC is looking for any pay-per-view that's going to make them money, and Brock Lesnar challenging for the title will. But what good is it for UFC on the small chance that he actually wins that fight? It's anything can happen in a fight. He probably isn't going to beat Stipe. He's probably not going to beat Cormier, okay? But it's not impossible. And if he does, what good is it for UFC to have him in a position where he won the championship and then he goes back to WWE and doesn't defend the title? I mean, that actually makes UFC look really bad. So is it really worth it to UFC to sign him for a championship fight unless they have him under contract as their property?
Well, given how they treat these titles, I'm pretty sure that in their mind, making a ton of money on pay-per-view in a year where they're trying to negotiate a television deal and they've got a huge debt is in fact more important than what happens to the belt.
Yeah, but it just makes the championship even more. It just weakens the championships even more if Lesnar wins and doesn't come back.
If you look at UFC business, I mean, the championships are low on their priority scale right now. I mean, their priority is we got to make a lot of money.
You're right. Yep. But that's short-term thinking. I mean, you don't want to. I know that the championships have all lost a ton of value with all the interim titles and things like that. I mean, but I still don't think it's a good move to put somebody in championship fight where he's not under contract to your company in case he wins. So,
well, this person also wants to know: didn't Dana White say that Lesnar was still under contract with UFC and that he still had fights on his contract?
He still has fights in the sense that he can't go to Bellator. If he comes back to fighting, it has to be with UFC because he's got fights on his contract. But they allowed him to go to professional wrestling. So yeah, that's the situation.
Do we know if he's re-entered the USADA pool yet?
He has not. So that's why I say it's at least 6 months because he has to enter the pool, then he has to pass tests for 6 months before he can fight. If they're looking at a fight in December, that would mean that he would have to enter the pool, if it's late December, he'd have to enter by late June. So he's got plenty of time to do that. If that's the time frame. If they wanted it at the Garden, which is November, then he would have to do it by early May. So that's not a lot of time. So that's the other thing that I thought was really weird in the sense that he's negotiating to go back to UFC. It's like they want everyone to know he's going back to UFC. But he was not in the testing pool. I would have thought he would have gotten in the testing pool months ago so he could go to UFC and fight as quick as he could. Especially because it's not like he's 31. He's 40, almost 41. He'll be 41 before he fights. So it's not like you want to drag that fighting business out. I mean, even a couple of months isn't good when he gets to that age because you're running on he's on real borrowed time. And for the same reason, at this age, there's a lot of money that he can make in fighting for one fight. Maybe if he wins, even more. But it's not a good thing. I know he beat Mark Hunt, even though he ended up failing the drug test, and that was not an official win anymore. But when you're going, Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier is a much higher level than Mark Hunt, and you can get beat up, and you got to remember that this guy had the opportunity to make a ton of money in fighting in 2011, and he left. And that's 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago, in 2011. So if at that age he thought it was time to get out, at this age, do you really want to go back in? That's why I'm always in the back of my head, whenever I hear Brock Lesnar in UFC, I always think, and yes, Dana White thinks what Dana White thinks. If you remember the last time they were talking to Dana White, literally, this in 2015. He was talking, it was actually to Lorenzo Fertitta. He was talking to Lorenzo Fertitta in 2015 on the way to ESPN, where he was going to make the announcement that he was signing with WWE. They offered him a giant money offer at the end, which he turned down. But then he did want to come back when the UFC 200 offer came in. So, money's high on the list, and he's, whatever deal that he got, the reality is it's going to be back up for negotiations very soon, and we'll be going through this all over again.
A couple of other Brock-related questions. This person says, if WWE gets a big increase in TV rights fees, does it make sense to move the pay-per-views, or at least the big Rousey and Lesnar pay-per-view matches, on a free TV, as the amount of money they will be making on rights fees internationally would dwarf the network revenues? Which actually ties into the network number.
Yeah, that depends on the negotiation of the TV deal. I mean, if the number is high enough, yes, you're right. If you're into something where the network is going to pay you so much money, and they're going to want the Ronda Rousey and the Brock Lesnar big matches, yes, at that point it would make more sense. It depends on the money offered. If the money's offered is $200 million, you may be like UFC and go with the idea that we'll take the $200 million and we're going to keep our pay-per-view business. In this case, they're going to keep their network business because they've been spending so much time building the network. If the number's $400 million, and tied in that $400 million is that we get every Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey fight, if that's the way the negotiations go, yeah, that would be the way to go. So it depends on the offer and what the people making the offer demand from the offer. So everything's up in play.
All right, so the network number.
Okay, so the network as of today has 2,124,000 subscribers, both free and paid. The paid is 1,808,000. So the paid number is up from 1,661 on the day after WrestleMania last year. The total number is up from 1,949,000 the day after WrestleMania last year. So what these numbers mean is that the push that we had for free, there were 316,000 free subscriptions, or there are as of today. Last year at the same time, there were 288,000. So there's a little bit more with the heavier promotion of free. And they're still doing the free. Don't forget, you can watch April 27th for free. You can watch May for free if you never subscribed. So they're going to push. They believe that they did a great job of pushing to everyone that this thing's free, because they believe that the more free subscribers they have, the more they will convert to paid subscribers in a month. Now the paid number is, it's up 9% from last year, but we don't know how many, and we won't know how many. We may not know exactly how many until August of this paid number is people who are paid with, $9.99 for 3 months or even less, like very low. It's not $9.99 a month because they've had all those gimmick offers out the last couple of months where you can get 3 months for the price of one and things like that. So
dude, they had 99 cent and $1.99 and $2.99. Remember, they had those really, really low offers where they were clearly trying to see, okay, which offer sells the most subscriptions and has the best retention rate, which is why I presume they did the various different.
Yeah, they were all. By the way, they did mention also that the idea of tiered network programming
coming soon.
Coming sooner than later. Yeah. Announcement could be coming anytime. So what that means, obviously there's been a lot of different ideas, including using content from other promotions on the network, some of the European promotions. They have deals with Progress and with ICW, to where they could do it. They just don't, because Vince, he hasn't been pushed to do it. At one point there was a lot of push for him to do it. Now, they were. I think a lot of that had to do with Flow Slam. Actually, when they got in the market, they didn't want anyone getting a foothold, So they went to everyone that they thought that they could make a deal with that would help FloSlam and said, hey, come with us. And they were really unhappy that Evolve didn't go with them. But Evolve had made the deal because they got a better deal from FloSlam than WWE was offering. Although now FloSlam doesn't exist. It actually died very quickly. And it was very clear very early on that it was going to die. So Vince McMahon's impetus, they're a lot of their moves, like the UK move that's going on right now, is because, ITV is back talking about getting back in the game. When somebody's coming in that has either money or theoretical money or power as far as broadcasting power in a market, like if TBS all of a sudden decided that they were going to, do a wrestling promotion in the United States, WWE would be signing up so many more wrestlers from the United States because they would want like nobody available. But if they're not, they don't have to be so aggressive. In the UK, because of ITV, that's actually happening right now. That's one of the reasons why they're back in business with the idea of doing a weekly television show, which hasn't been announced yet, although it was announced a year ago, and all that same stuff. They're doing the King of the Ring. They've already announced. So, that's just how they operate.
So just as a follow-up, in January of this year, they were not just offering the network for 99 cents, $1.99, and $2.99. These were 3 months at those prices. And so that would mean that in this paid number...
They are all in this paid number.
...that they gave today, I mean, we're talking some of these paid numbers were people paying 33 cents a month.
Wow. Yeah, I we've said all along that when these numbers come out, they're very misleading, and we're not going to know. But what we do know is they had a really good quarter because they had their OIBDA looks like it's 30 million. But I mean, as far as like what these network numbers mean, everyone's jumping on board. What great numbers, and we really don't know anything.
No,
because these, because we don't know if very few of those subscribers are at those low prices, then it's great. If a lot of them are, if it's a couple 100,000, then it's not necessarily so great. I mean,
we don't know, but I mean, the fact that we have several 100,000 getting it free would indicate to me that several 100,000 are getting it for 99 cents, $1.99, or $2.99 for 3 months, right?
We don't know. You could very well be right. But yeah, that's the unanswered question, and that's why looking at this at face value and just go, they're up 9% from last year when in December they were only up like whatever it was 4%. Also, the other thing is that these numbers are not broken down to the United States and the world. If they were broken down between the United States and outside the United States, we could look and see, is this just international growth? Is it domestic growth? Is it both? We really don't know. So there's like they put out the numbers that were going to wow people the most. And of course, none of those things that you just brought up were ever brought up by any of the investors because they don't know this. They were not brought up, obviously, by WWE because, they were looking at, hey, we're growing now at a fast rate. And perhaps because this was a more attractive WrestleMania than in most years, it didn't have the killer main event, but it had a deeper card, and it did have, it did have Ronda Rousey's debut, which garnered a tremendous amount of publicity. That perhaps that has driven, that would have driven and has driven more paid numbers at the regular price for all we know. But we don't know any of this. There's just a lot that we don't know. I'm trying to think what other things. We do know that the average viewer watched more network programming, more hours of programming this past week than they did last year. Now, last year was also below the year before, and I haven't looked up to compare it the 2 years as far as what that is. But part of that also is that Freaking Hall of Fame was very, very long. There was more programming. The WrestleMania was probably,
Mania was longer, NXT TakeOver was longer. So you add all that up. If it's 30 minutes more per customer, that may just mean that shows were longer.
Mania and yeah, those two shows, just Mania and NXT, were longer, and Hall of Fame was longer. And that's probably, between the three of them, that probably explains all of it. But they made that point as well. Now, they are, let me look at this. So they were looking at least $30 million in OIBDA for the first quarter and $145 million for the year, which is a really high number. I mean, it's way above any other year historically. Well, not way above, because it was they were actually 136 this last year, and even then, I think the profits were in the 31 million was the profit number. But there was a lot of things when it comes to that would not be, like tax. The tax break's going to be much better, which is a big one, and there's other costs. I mean, they're legitimately going to have their most profitable year this year, and if their basic outlook, which was 23 to 27 million in OIBDA for the first quarter, and they're up to at least 30. That means that they're up 5 million, and the key reasons were more revenue from house shows, more revenue from digital advertising, and more revenue from sponsorship. And there's also a couple of things they said that there's money that's coming in now that would be coming in, or that they expected to come in later in the year. So it would kind of some of that would balance out for later in the year, in the sense that, but still, they've revised the year up 5 million from their original projections for the year. So they did have a very strong first quarter. How much of that is the network? How much of that's increases in television revenue, decreases in spending? We don't know. We do know that, obviously, from the announcement yesterday, or the announcement actually was on Friday night at the Hall of Fame, of all the new network programming. They're back to having a lot of new programming when they'd cut back a lot on programming to get this profitability of the network up. So obviously they are feeling better about the, business as a whole. Business as a whole is better. So that's the bottom line. But exactly how to analyze all of this, they were, like I said, they were very selective in what they reported, and the key stuff that we needed to know, we don't know. And even at the next conference call, we're not going to know it, because it's going to end. The conference call ends on the end of March, which means that all this last week Mania stuff wouldn't be addressed until August.
All right, we got to talk about this Raw show here. The follow-up to WrestleMania, they did announce that the Superstar Shakeup is next week, and so it'll start on Raw. It'll continue on SmackDown. It is the annual draft. Vince is back on this deal. Doesn't like the word draft. Doesn't like the word tournament. I'm sure there are more.
That's right. They didn't use the word tournament for the tournament.
Not one single time. It is not a tournament.
Yeah, but is King of the Ring a tournament?
Well, that's NXT, so it's different. On the main roster, this is a tag team eliminator.
Yeah, that is so weird. Well, but it's Vince McMahon. Yeah.
What did you think of this show?
I thought it was a really entertaining show. The audience wasn't like, I didn't think the audience was.
They weren't there to hijack anything except Roman Reigns, who was put out there to be hijacked.
Yeah, but any post WrestleMania, a lot of crowds would do that to Roman Reigns. Any big city crowd's going to do that as well. So that wasn't really there was nothing as far as crowd reactions. I mean, the crowd was louder and it was more enthusiastic than a normal Raw crowd, as it always is. Although I didn't find it to be as crazy at all as compared to other years. But they were. I mean, it was a good crowd.
They solved that problem by killing them yesterday with a 7-hour show.
I thought the same thing. I thought that show probably tired people out. But, it is a great show to debut people, because, if you debut at a regular Raw, a lot of the people aren't going to know who the Authors of Pain are. They're, some of them may not remember Bobby Lashley. This audience obviously knew who they were. It was a great audience for Paige to do her retirement at, because it's an audience that's going to respect her more.
And so many people from the UK.
Yeah. And Ronda Rousey looked like the biggest star in the company when she came out. I mean, she got much bigger pop than she'd been getting in the other cities. Not that she hadn't been getting a good reaction, but this was much bigger. it was some of the interesting things are with the shakeup. Now, normally, if you look at their booking patterns, and they are trying to cross things up and not make things as predictable, but usually there will be guys that are going to get drafted, are guys that are kind of put in a certain position, that don't look good on the show, because the idea is that it's all forgotten when you go to either side. So it's like, does that mean that The Miz and the Miztourage, who just got humiliated at the end of the show, Alexa Bliss, who got pinned by Ember Moon, and Gallows and Anderson, and I'm just throwing some names out, that all of them, perhaps those are people we could look at to maybe be going to the other side? Maybe. When I was watching, I'm kind of watching the show with the idea of who are they humiliating. I know that Miz is still going to be in the IC title picture, but that could be, they could do a storyline.
Maybe. He got pinned by the champion at the end of the show.
Yeah, but he still gets his rematch. They already established that earlier in the show. But and he's going to get in. He's going to get in He's going to be in a 4-way ladder match at the April 27th show, and then on the May 6th show, he's going to be wrestling Rollins in a singles match for the title. But they could also do a storyline where Miz threatens to go to, Miz is in SmackDown and they lose the belt if Miz wins, type of story for the May 6th show, because, they're not singular pay-per-views. They're guys from both brands. So, this is all theoretical. I don't know that any of this is happening. I'm just looking at, who, again, Miz, Dallas, and Axel. They didn't just lose. There was a statement being made there about, they just got curb stomped to the ground during the match, after the match. They were just left for dead. And Miz is still getting a championship match coming up. So that's not normally, you might book him to get pinned, but you're not booking him to get humiliated before a championship match unless there's something else going on. So it's stuff to look out for.
Show opened up with Stephanie McMahon coming out. She had her arm in a brace. Crowd chanting, "You tapped out." She chastises them for being rude. Does not appreciate the transition that somebody made last night to professional wrestling. That person being Stephanie McMahon. She wanted a pat on the back. Says, "I brought out the best in Ronda Rousey, and I'm going to bring her out right now for you people." So she came out, and Stephanie gave a pep talk, basically asking her to join her and allow... She wants Ronda to allow Stephanie herself to be in her corner. And the fans chanted bullshit. Steph says Ronda's smarter than all the fans. Fans chanted, "Shut the fuck up." So Steph says, "Give it up for my friend Rowdy Ronda Rousey." And Ronda gives her a hug, but then gives her the face, hits her with a flying armbar, tears off the brace, puts her in the armbar again. Stephanie's selling like crazy. Fans are chanting, "You deserve it." And they bring out the doctors. They help Stephanie out of the ring. Place is going nuts for Ronda. Sing the goodbye song to Stephanie. And as they're carting her out, what's her name? The ring announcer. JoJo goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, may we have a little respect for Stephanie McMahon?" And of course, they just booed like crazy.
That was cute. Yeah.
That was an awesome spot. So Stephanie McMahon putting someone over 2 nights in a row, which I believe is a historical first.
It is a historical first. And like I said, Ronda Rousey is such a big, it was always a big signing, even if she didn't have a good match and she didn't have good interviews and she, just the fact they had her because of her rep and everything. But yeah, this is real big. It's big enough to where they're already talking about Ronda Rousey in the main event at next year's WrestleMania. That's how big it is.
Wow. Well, they made the nice change of getting rid of that stupid eye makeup, so I was overjoyed to see that.
Yeah,
she's out there looking like Ronda Rousey again. She has a great face. She's got a great happy face. She's got a great mean face. This was a great segment.
I want to tell you something. She's really good at this. When you consider, we were all worried because it's like there's a learning curve and everything. And I guess that she's actually practiced that match from last night. She's actually been practicing that match for a long time, a lot longer than we even knew the match was going to happen. I heard for months. So, it's not always going to be like that. But even so, look, she's a great athlete. She gets it. And the crowd loves her.
And she's making a lot of money, so they will protect her.
She's making them a lot of money. She's making herself a lot of money. Not as much money as she was making in UFC, but she's making a lot of money. She's one of the higher paid people in the company right now.
Wait, the announcers doing their annual disclaimer that this is going to be a weird show. People are going to cheer who they want and boo who you don't expect, and
that didn't really happen.
No, I don't know why you have to do that. It just seems so lame.
It's really
just let it be.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's like they don't like it, but they can't admit they don't like it. But by saying this, they pretty much admit that they don't like it because they're telling you, "Hey, don't pay attention to this crowd." But we're all, you know, it's like you fans don't pay attention to this crowd because it's just a weird crowd. But it's okay. We're all good with it because we're all having a good time, and you can do this. And if that's the case, you don't have to bring it up. You know, I mean, would any other sport bring it up if you go into like a weird city and they react different than another city? They may bring up that, hey, it's kind of a different reaction, but they wouldn't go, oh, by the way, you know, these fans are cheering the visiting team instead of the home team. But you know, it's because they're just, you know, but we like them anyway. I mean, it's just, it's just, yeah, when they do stuff like that, I think it comes off just kind of weird, but that's WWE. I mean, it just is, you know, that's part of the unique quirkiness that is WWE. You know, I mean, it's Vince. You know, what can you say? You know, he's got his good points and he's got those quirky points. Like you said, there's words that for no reason are banned. TNA, by the way, not being one of them, because even though Jeff Jarrett in his Hall of Fame speech could not even mention TNA, which is really the major part of his career, they did mention TNA on the show tonight.
They sure did. We'll get to that. Nia Jax comes out. Alexa and Mickey come out for a match. Looks like it's going to be a handicap match. Alexa says, "Looks like there's no bigger bully here than Ronda Rousey, except for Nia Jax. She throws her weight around, which is a lot of weight. She's twice the size of Mickey, 3 times the size of me." Fans call her an asshole. She says, "Alexa beat up Mickey for no reason last night. That's why I lost. I was competing under emotional distress." Nia tells her to shut up, says she enjoys every second of what she did to her last night. And she says, "Alexa's wrong. I do have a partner tonight." Because Alexa had said, everyone knows deep down you're full of ice, and so that's why you don't have a partner. So, partner was Ember Moon, debuting here on the main roster. Babyface took the entire match.
Yeah, just a quick squash, really.
Yep. Coach tried to explain. Tonight is the hardest night of the year to make a debut. And which Corey Graves just eviscerated this guy.
I mean, it's like it's the easiest night to make a debut.
Yes, this was the stupidest thing he could have possibly said at this moment.
Well, he did say that the nerves were high and things like that, but essentially he was wrong. Yes.
So, yep, quick squash. Ember hit the Eclipse for the pin
on Bliss, not even on
Alexa Bliss. Yep. Yeah. And Alexa's nose was cut up, so. There was some weird stuff with Alexa and Ember right before the finish. There was like a high cross that went awry and then some other spot. But anyway, it was a debut. And the fans loved Ember, so there you go.
Well, they were going to love anyone new. I mean, that was just the nature of this fan base. It could have been anyone from NXT was going to get a big reaction. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything because if you remember like Shelton Benjamin and, not Shelton Benjamin, Chad Gable and Jason Jordan last year. When they debuted, I mean, the place just went ballistic. And then, you know, and granted, a lot of it was the bad booking, but I mean, those guys were dead pretty quickly.
So Braun meets with Kurt Angle in an absolutely preposterous segment. Angle says, "Hey, where's Nicholas?" Braun says, "He's right here." He's very, very short, obviously. Braun says, "We got to relinquish these tag team titles. Nicholas has a scheduling conflict. He's in the 4th grade. And when he finishes school...
I told you.
He's coming back for him."
That he had school to go to, and that...
Yeah, but he didn't go to school today. So the scheduling conflict did not get in the way this particular afternoon.
Just for this one day. They held him out of school for one day so he could be on national TV. But he can't, like, be going on to all these house shows.
No, but you know what? Kurt Angle apparently was okay with Nicholas being one half of the tag team champions. Because he made no effort to strip them until Braun relinquished the title to him. And Nicholas said someone was going to get these hands.
Aren't there
child labor laws?
Child labor laws. Yeah, I mean, can you have a kid go from state to state?
No. Braun Strowman knew that, but Kurt Angle was apparently clueless.
Yeah, well, what can I say?
We had No Way Jose debuting versus John Skyler. He now has a conga line.
I thought they were the Rosebuds.
He's basically the new Adam Rose, which didn't work out well for the old Adam Rose, so that's what happens here. So, Michael Cole, he was so horrible on this show. Every single cliche we hear every single year. Do you know that No Way Jose is a guy who likes to have fun? Well, he went out there, he had fun, pop-up punch, won.
29 seconds.
Yep.
I mean...
Hey, he could be the best opening match wrestler in WWE history. Get him out there to light the fans up at the beginning of every house show.
A million guys are put like that. I mean, it's fine. And, yeah, he's fine. He's fine for an opening match guy. There's nothing wrong with him. I still think that's John Jones in disguise trying to, make some money while he's, he's on his USADA suspension.
Well, Dave, it's not.
Really?
I can confirm that.
Have you ever seen them together?
Well, I have never seen them together. But he is significantly larger than John Jones.
No, he's not.
Are you kidding me?
No, he's not. They're almost the exact same size.
Get out of here.
The only difference is that he's got that frickin' hair, and that could be a wig for all you know, or extensions.
Well, the hair and the gut and the...
the gut, but you don't know that John Jones hasn't been training as hard. He does have a little bit of a different body, but they're pretty much the same height.
I cannot wait to see the Photoshops on Twitter tomorrow.
Yeah.
What a day it's going to be.
Yeah. I believe that he's John Jones in disguise.
Barr met with Kurt Angle.
John Jones has been wanting to get into WWE.
I'm sure a lot of guys are at this point, especially if they're on suspension.
Especially when they're on suspension, exactly.
Well, I know if Kurt is going to give the belts back now or if he can do a more formal ceremony. And Kurt says, listen, you two geeks lost to a 10-year-old. I am giving 4 teams an opportunity in a tag team eliminator. The winners of the competition will face each other next week, and you will get the winners of the tag team eliminator in Saudi Arabia at the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Yes.
This was a WWE promo here. A Revival versus the Bar. Quick match in this tag team eliminator. Had heat on Gallows. Anderson made a nice hot tag. Dawson tried to get the pin using the tights. Didn't work. 4-way. Dash sent Gallows into the dasher boards, and the Revival hit the Shatter Machine for the pin. So they advance in the non-bracketed tag team eliminator match.
There's a bracket.
Well, there was no bracket.
I mean, they didn't show it on the screen. They don't have to. When there's only 4 teams, you don't have to have a big graphic for it.
I want a bracket if there's 2 teams.
If there's 2 teams, it's a singles match. I mean, it's a regular match.
Just give me a bracket anyway. Come on.
There's not enough. You need at least 8 teams for a bracket.
John Cena plugged the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and then Seth Rollins came out. Crowd super hot for him. He said last night, Seth Rollins, he can proudly say, is back. He's a Grand Slam champion, won the title on the grandest stage in front of all these animals. Finn Balor comes out.
When they say the grandest stage, it's like, does that sound like something that people would say in real life?
Dave, have you watched this show? They're talking about a tag team eliminator. This is the least of our problems.
Maybe these promos are our problems.
Well, they are a problem.
Yeah. I mean, did Dusty Rhodes ever say stuff like that?
Well, he said stuff like Bull of the Woods, which, I mean, he made it work.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
that
would sound awfully weird in WWE in 2018 as something a normal person would not say.
But when he, went to Starrcade or something like that, he didn't say this is the grandest stage of them all.
It was it was the granddaddy of them all.
That was later. That was way after Dusty Rhodes. It wasn't anyone's granddaddy when Dusty Rhodes was in Starrcade. It was just the biggest show of the year, but I don't even know how they phrased it.
So anyway, Seth wanted a championship match, and so The Miz came out. No babyface this week. Said Seth did not deserve it.
Nope. After all that, the guy's not a babyface after all. He was just... You know what he was? He was a heel who's playing a babyface on television for 2 weeks.
That's what I said last week.
Yep. Yeah, but he didn't do anything it's like you thought that he was going to be just the pretend babyface for a couple weeks, and then when everyone didn't suspect it, he was going to turn on somebody and go back heel. Instead, he didn't do nothing like that. He just showed up and did a heel promo.
Well, he talked about his child. He said that everything he does in his life affects her. She watched the match last night. She began to cry when he lost the title, so Maurice cried, and finally he cried. Seth said, that's very big of you to admit you cried because that's what everyone else does when they watch your matches. You can't lace my boots. And Miz says, I want my rematch. Seth says, let's do it right now. And Miz says, no, I'll do it when I want to. And if you want a match tonight, myself and the Miz Taraj will take on the two of you. And then Jeff Hardy's music hit, so a 6-man tag set up for the main event. We had Sasha versus Mandy Rose. Bayley came out to her music to second Sasha. Had a kind of a weird match. Sasha looked like she hit her with a knee, and the match sort of fell apart. Mandy rolled outside. Sasha jumped off the apron, just bonked into her. Clearly was not the plan. And then Bayley tried to hit Mandy. She moved. Bayley hit Sasha.
Which was the plan.
Yep. Sasha got back in the ring. Mandy hit the flying knee and got the pin. So then Bayley is very disappointed, walks to the back. I don't know what's going on. I could have sworn they not only had a full breakup, but actually got in a fight. Now they're out here together, and the commentators are talking about how they need to get back on the same page. Did I go back in time?
Yes, you did.
Okay. That's all I need to know. Yeah. I'm okay with it now.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed, like, sometimes, like, when you, like, hit the button on the DVR and you go back in time? So just pretend that you hit the button back 3 weeks.
Okay. That makes sense.
And that's what they did before this match. So they just shot that thing back a couple weeks before that big locker room thing, and when they smashed each other's heads in the locker room, and beat
the hell out of each other. It was
right.
And seemed like a real breakup to me, but I guess it didn't happen.
So now we're back to just before that, and like it's kind of like one of those Alberto Del Rio turns. You know how those things worked out.
Oh yeah, great.
Yep.
Well, speaking of, Paige cut a promo. Said some of you may know this, some of you might not. It's very hard for me to sit on the sidelines at WrestleMania. I love the ring. I was born to be in the ring. It's my heart and soul and blood. But due to neck injuries, I can no longer perform as an in-ring competitor. It's one of the hardest things she'll ever have to do, she said. They chanted, thank you, Paige.
Trying to use those terms, perform as an in-ring competitor, rather than say that my wrestling career is over, I can't wrestle anymore?
Well, she literally was starting to say something, and she stopped and had to re-say it the way they wanted her to say it.
Very clearly.
Yeah, she was about to say, I can no longer compete, and then she stopped in the middle of it and said, I can no longer perform as an in-ring competitor. It was very strange. So she wanted to thank everybody backstage, proud to be a part of the division. She wants to thank Daniel Bryan for coming back from a career-ending injury, giving her hope. Maybe someday she can come back. And also want to thank Edge, who was backstage, showed her there was life outside of pro wrestling. Now she's going to have to go find something else. Thank WWE for letting her do this. Debuted and won the Divas title here in New Orleans 4 years ago. This is where she wants to retire. Said thank you to everybody. They chanted, thank you, Paige. This is your house. She laid down her mic, her shirt, and left. Is she gone? Is her contract expired?
I think that they probably, I think she's gone.
Yeah, that's what this sounded like to me.
It sounded like, she's going to have to find something else to do, whether it's acting or who knows what.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know. I don't know what.
I wonder if she chose to leave because she can't stand being out there not in the ring, because she was good in her role.
I think, I thought she was good in her role, but I think that, they probably just, felt that they kept her for several months, and, this is kind of the new shake-up time, and, now it's time to cut bait. But I thought, talking-wise, she was very good. As far as being in the corner, they wouldn't let her touch anyone.
No.
They wouldn't let her get near the action. And I guess that their feeling is that if the manager can't get even near the action...
Yeah, but what are you going to do with Mandy and Sonya? Like, she talked for both of them.
Yep.
She was like the life of the act. Now they're going to get rid of her? They're going to be floundering.
Well, you may be right.
I guess they can probably just be drafted one to one brand, one to the other, go as singles, and...
that's going to screw them up, aren't they? Like, they're best buddies. But best friends get drafted from different companies too. So.
All the time.
Yep. Maybe they want to break them up. Who knows?
We had Drifter in the ring for his concert. Fans were going crazy for him until he sang a song about how he wanted to punch him in the face. Suddenly out comes Bobby Lashley. Everybody chanted welcome back. He had a big neck breaker, long delayed suplex, and laid him out. Yep.
So it looks like that suplex might be his finisher.
It sure looked like it. Was cool looking.
Yeah, he had him up there for what? I didn't time it, but it was really...
It was a long time.
I mean, it was longer than even your usual long, like Davey Boy Smith Jr. delayed verticals or Michael Elgin delayed verticals. I mean, this was a real long time.
Hey, what happened with Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Jake Roberts?
We never talked about that, did we?
Nope. Another weird thing over Mania weekend.
Yeah, so this was at WrestleCon, I believe, and he went there, and I guess he had Twitter spats with Scott Hall and with Jake the Snake in recent months. So he went there, and there's Scott Hall and Jake the Snake. So he goes up to Scott Hall, and he just goes, Scott Hall had written something about, somebody asked him about, why were Davey Boy Smith, his father, and Lex Luger put as a tag team, and Scott Hall said because they couldn't get over his singles. So, Harry's very proud of his father, and he was really upset by that, as were other members of the family. So he went up to Scott Hall, and Scott Hall just apologized, and they shook hands, and it's all cool. So I guess he went to Jake Roberts, figuring the same thing, and Jake Roberts just goes, I'm not apologizing. There's nothing I said that wasn't true. Whatever he said, and I'm not exactly sure what Jake said, but whatever it was, he was not apologizing. And Davey Boy Smith just tells him, well, let's not make a scene here. Let's go outside and discuss it. And Jake is like, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going outside. And so they had some words. Davey Boy had coffee that he had in a cup as he was there. And all of a sudden, he poured the coffee all over Jake, and then there's kind of a scene, and he left. So it probably, that's what happened.
There you go. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens show up to talk to Kurt, and they said, we had a bit of a falling out with the management. And Kurt says, you looking for a job? Didn't you get fired for attacking your GM and commissioner? And Sammy goes, well, it was a personal thing. That's not going to happen there. Kurt says, listen, you two, my tag team division is full, but I hear that TNA is hiring. There's a huge pop from the crowd.
Yeah, TNA doesn't even exist anymore. He's outdated.
That's right. Kevin said, listen.
It hasn't existed in 6 months, but now they finally can mention it because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Kevin says, listen, you have to hire both of us. And Sammy says, what are you talking about? Kevin says, I have a family. Sammy says, I have a family. Kevin says, I have kids. Kurt says, both of you shut up. You can wrestle each other tonight. A winner gets a job. Speaking of having kids, Slater and Rhino come out, issue a challenge. Authors of Pain come out. They killed him. And the story of this more so, I guess, not more so than the call-up, but they walked out on Paul Ellering. So he's not part of this call-up.
Why did they even bother with Paul Ellering in the first place?
I have no idea. I guess just for a tiny bit of storyline continuity. But
they never have continuity when it comes to stuff like that.
Well, maybe they've decided to turn over a new leaf.
I can get the idea that Paul Ellering probably doesn't want to go on the road 200 days a year at his age. I can really get that, but
I'll say.
I just don't know. I don't know why they would even. Why don't they just bring him up? There's no Paul Ellering, because now it's just weird to me that you bring somebody up for one show and then he disappears. Why do it?
We had Roman Reigns coming out in street clothes. Absolutely hated by the crowd. So he does this bizarre promo. He says, I got my ass kicked last night, but I'm here tonight and Brock Lesnar is not. I don't know what happened yesterday, he says. All day people were looking at me and whispering, and Vince himself couldn't look me in the eye and smarten me up. So, I can't tell if the storyline is the finish got changed and Vince screwed him out of a fake title? Or are we supposed to believe that Vince, I guess, convinced Brock to shoot on him and retain the title? Like, what's he trying to say here?
He's trying to say the first one, not the second one.
Okay, this is bizarre.
Yeah, no, you're telling me. Well, it's like this. The idea is that they're trying to make you think that this is real, and that Brock Lesnar is Vince's guy, and Roman Reigns is the guy who Vince hates. That's the key.
But it's not real.
I know, but
but in the storyline, it's not real because he's saying things changed. Vince couldn't look him in the eye.
Well, I don't know if Vince looked him in the eye or not, but things did change. I mean, that's not even untrue.
I know, but why am I watching a Raw show where a guy's out here telling me that it's fake and the finish got changed? I'm supposed to feel sympathy for him and want him to then go and win the fake belt. Or is now the storyline supposed to be that Vince screwed me out of winning the fake belt in the fake match, so the next time I get in the ring with that guy, I'm going to kick his ass for real and take the belt? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
He didn't say that. He didn't say, now I'm going to shoot.
He didn't say that, but he did say, if they keep putting me in matches with Brock Lesnar, I'm going to end up the champion. Like, I think that's what they're trying to get at.
Well, they're trying to tell you that Vince changed the finish in the match, and you should have sympathy for Roman Reigns because he was really supposed to win, but Vince favored the part-time guy once again.
So is this WCW again?
Yes, this is WCW again.
Okay, because it didn't work out for them, and they're out of business right now. I'd just like to throw that in there.
That's very true. They are, and I completely hate when they do this because it's like, do characters in a television show all of a sudden in the middle of like one of the scenes go, the writer changed that scene.
My character's going to die at the end of the show because, like, we couldn't come to terms for the next season. I just want you to know that before I continue with this scene.
Something like that, yeah. Or they changed a scene. They changed my last scene, and wouldn't even tell me about it in the middle of like this show. Which I guess there's, well, whatever. Yeah, I didn't particularly like it, but I know what they're going for.
Well, all I know is this.
Well, the thing is like it's because all the fans know. I mean, it's and no one pretends that they don't know. All the fans know. So what's real to the fans is that Roman Reigns is Vince McMahon's hand-picked guy, and they just want to tell you he's not, even though he is. And
but he is. Everybody knows that.
Everyone knows, but they're trying to make you believe that he's not.
Well, that's not going to work.
And that Brock Lesnar is. I know it's not going to work because WrestleMania is already over, and that was the experiment. It didn't work. So now they're going even harder with it, and they're hoping that at least the fans in Saudi Arabia, who may not be sophisticated, will cheer Roman Reigns, and, it'll work there.
So then, let's just say that he cuts his promo, and the fans go, God damn, I can't believe Vince didn't look the guy in the eye, and he changed the finish. Man, Roman deserved to win. I really like this guy. Let's just say that's what the fans actually thought. They didn't, by the way.
They didn't, though.
Let's just say that they did, though. Then they bring out Samoa Joe. And Joe he just buries this guy with the best promo ever. He goes, look at you. You think there's a conspiracy. Brock not only beat you, he exposed you. Everybody cheers. For a year, you've been coming out here saying you're the only one who could beat Brock Lesnar, and every time you get in there, you fail. That makes you a failure. Fans go nuts. They start chanting failure at the guy. Joe says you're a liar. You lied to the fans. You lied to your family. You lied to everybody. Fans are chanting failure. He says you got carted out on a stretcher. You got broken. Brock got richer. No matter how many times we tell this story, when the big dog meets the beast conquers you. You can make all the excuses you want. And after Brock ragdolls you across the cage and you fall again, I'm going to be waiting at Backlash to put you to sleep. Everybody just goes nuts. I was like, this was your plan after that Roman Reigns promo to further try to get the guy over?
Yep. Well, Roman Reigns and Joe's going to be the big program, so they got to get Joe over.
Dude, Joe was over, all right. He was awesome here.
Well, in this front, I mean, Joe is over, and he is awesome, but in front of this crowd, on your A, it's your comeback, B, it's Samoa Joe. See, he's feuding with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, but any town, they all hate Roman Reigns. He's out here pointing out that this guy is a loser. True. He can never beat the guy. True. He talked about doing it for a year and he failed. True. And he's a failure. True.
He's not.
Every single thing he said was true.
He's not a failure.
He is in the storyline.
No, he's not. He's probably one of the highest paid guys in the whole company.
Dave, in the storyline, he's a failure. He's tried over and over for four years.
Well, he hasn't gotten that many shots.
And he cannot beat Brock Lesnar.
Okay, but everyone else is a failure too. Joe's a failure. Braun Strowman's a failure.
You're right.
Finn Balor would be a failure, except he failed.
He wasn't over.
He wasn't over, so he didn't even get there. Seth Rollins was supposed to be a failure, but they never got to him either. So, yeah, that's the deal.
We had Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt versus Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews. This was another...
No Crews.
What?
No Crews.
What do you mean, no Crews?
He's no longer Crews.
Oh, yeah, Apollo. I apologize.
That's one of Vince's pet peeves.
I was back there looking for what they called this stupid tournament again. Because I can't say tournament. Oh, the Tag Team Eliminator.
Don't worry about it. You can say tournament.
This is a Tag Team Eliminator match.
I won't get mad at you if you say tournament.
Vince may be listening. I don't want to get on his bad side. So
you already are.
Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt won, and that was the end. They're facing the Revival next week. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, winner getting a Raw contract. You'll be shocked. They had an excellent match.
They had a good match, and then they both lost.
Yep, they did all sorts of deals. Sammy hit a kick in the corner out of nowhere. Owens hit the pop-up powerbomb out of nowhere. They're both down. Ref starts counting, and they can't get up. Actually, there was the twisting fisherman buster off the top first. But all I know is I was watching this match, and I thought, you know what? If Kurt Angle was a good GM, he would have drawn up contracts for both guys in the middle of this match.
You mean like Dana White did with Bonner and Griffin?
Exactly. That's what this was.
This was the Bonner-Griffin match. Except no one's going to remember it next week.
No, it's not going to turn this company around. Although they're doing fine, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Matt ran into Jeff backstage. Bray walks up and says, "Brother Nero." Jeff says he's glad Sister Abigail was rendered obsolete. They do their little deal, and they pan to the side, and there's Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. They're aghast. It was really funny, but they could not leave well enough alone, so they keep going. Balor has to go, "What was that?" And Jeff just shrugs and walks off. And then we had the main event. Miz Taraj, Seth, Finn, and Jeff Hardy. 6-man tag. Some very loud spot calling in this match right here. Usual long main event. He done Finn for a while. Tagged in Jeff. He tagged Seth in. He runs wild. Blockbuster on Miz. Big dive to the outside. Bunch of near falls.
I thought Seth and Finn Balor looked really good in this match.
Yep, Seth hits a curb stomp on Miz for the pin, and then
actually Jeff Hardy looked pretty decent too. For coming back and being 40 and everything, he was moving pretty good.
Yep,
he's in good shape.
Babyface laid out the entire Miz Taraj, hit all their finishers. Jeff just killed Curtis Axel with the senton. Seth did the curb stomp, crowd chin and burn it down. It's kind of weird. It was like a nice, happy ending to a match, but a weird finish for the biggest Raw of the entire year. I guess he just figured it's 10 o'clock. Everyone's watched a lot of wrestling. We're tired.
It's 11 o'clock.
Just give him a match and send him home happy.
Yeah. But they did the beatdown after that. If they had just done the finish, I would just go, okay, whatever. But when they did that beatdown, to me, it was like, there's something up there. Because it's like you don't beat down heels to that degree. You can beat them in the match, but you don't. This was a basic humiliation that I don't know. I that's the message I got. But we'll
find out next week.
We'll find out next week. Yep, going to be a big week. Another big week for WWE. They're going to have big ratings Monday and Tuesday. Like they're going to have tonight's rating is probably going to be the second biggest of the year. I bet.
Troy, we got SmackDown coming up here tonight, and I don't know what's on the show. Did they announce anything?
Nope. They didn't announce anything at all.
Okada's all in.
Yeah, big name.
Yep, he'll be at the All In show coming up in Chicago in September, so names will be trickling out between now and then.
Yeah, Flip Gordon's still not all in, though.
No, it's very unfortunate.
Well, he may be by the end of this thing.
That's right.
Did you hear that Jerry Lawler threw threw fire at Joey
Yes.
Ryan's penis.
I sure did. I saw the picture.
Yeah.
Saw the picture. What's up with the McGregor?
Oh, so wowie kazowie. So Conor McGregor on Thursday, all that other stuff that you've heard about, right? What you don't know, because it wasn't captured on camera, is that Conor McGregor punched some UFC employee as well.
And he's still on Dana's good side, and he's going to be fighting again soon?
He's going to be fighting again real soon. Yep.
Dude.
Yep. It's unbelievable. I'm still but what are you going to do? It's like...
Well, not use him for a while? Or ever? Send him to Mars?
Man, I would... Well, the problem is that...
You know what I would do? You know what I'd do if I was you? I would say, Bellator, he's all yours. Go for it.
Well,
deal with him wanting $15 million per fight. Deal with him punching your employees and attacking a bus. Go ahead and deal with all this. Go for it. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Then when it doesn't work out, then hey, maybe you could bring him back at that point if you want to.
Yep. He's kind of like the Alberto El Patron of MMA. Except...
Honestly, he's worse.
He's far more valuable.
What's the last bus Alberto attacked?
Oh, but Alberto got in a fight with his brother. Alberto got in a fight with that guy who he thought was looking at Paige the wrong way.
Yeah, that's his brother. That's some random guy who maybe was looking at Paige. I'm not defending Alberto. I'm just saying Conor completely lost his mind this weekend.
They both lost their mind.
Conor lost his mind way more than Alberto did this weekend.
This weekend? Yes. All Alberto did was get sick and miss an autograph signing. He didn't endanger anybody at all. So yes, you're right. I would agree with that. I don't know that anyone in it lost their mind at the level Conor did. I mean, this guy, I don't know. But having said that, when he fights Khabib, if he does, because who the hell knows? Because it's like until he fights again, I'm not I'm not sold ever on Brock Lesnar going back to UFC until it's like the contract is signed, no matter what people say. And I'm not sold on the idea that Conor's going to fight again because he's got all that money in the bank and he may not want to train. And if he doesn't train, look, if he's just out of his mind, he may not do so well when he comes back to fighting either. In fact, I would say there's a real good chance.
There's a very good chance of that.
Yeah. And, well, then they should probably put him with Khabib. Because if nothing else, it's like that's how you make a star. You haven't beat a star.
I see some of the mailbag questions here. Mailbag at WrestlingObserver.com. We'll do more Wednesday as well. This person says...
Andre things tonight, by the way.
That's right. HBO, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. So we'll have... we'll probably talk about it on Wednesday a little bit, but we'll have Pat LaPrade on at some point, probably next week. And if you've got Andre questions, we'll probably do another show on Andre after this. So there's probably plenty of questions. There's, and comments on the documentary and things like that. So
let's start with a question we can't answer, but it's a decent question. Why is WWE so adamant about people not filming video at their shows, and then they go and use fan-shot footage in video packages? It's a good question. I don't know.
That's over my head.
Actually, I can partially answer that. I think a lot of that supposed fan-shot footage that you see on WWE programming is actually shot by the social media department, and it's not actually fan-shot footage. It's them taking footage on their cell phones that they make look like fan-shot footage. So
there's your answer. Oh, and also, that reminds me of something that they were, which also kind of, coincides with something I said earlier. They were interviewing people, like women, and they were trying to get them to do interviews saying that Ronda Rousey should have been in the main event at WrestleMania. It's not like they're going, who do you think should be in the main event? And, Ronda Rousey. It's like, we want you to say this. So it's part of the manipulation process.
This person says, any chance Alberto is returning? They don't want Alberto and Paige on the road together, hence the retirement and getting her off TV.
I don't think so.
Plus, they could have one on Raw, one on SmackDown, and get them off the road together.
Yeah, I don't think that one has to do with the other. And I'll tell you what, if I'm them, I ain't hiring Alberto. I mean, they may. I mean, Because if I'm them, I wouldn't be so adamant on, I would pretty much force Jeff Hardy to go to rehab. I mean, it's just too, you know what I mean? It's like, and they didn't do it. So, I don't know.
Burr says, I'm not sure if you reported on this or not, as rumored Detroit was in the running for next year's Mania. Is there a desire to go to any specific place, or is it pretty much all a financial decision?
It depends on, they want new stadiums, and they want towns that tourists want to go to, which Detroit is not necessarily one of them, which not to say that they can't do Detroit. But, because if the city offers a good enough deal, they're going to go. It's basically the deal that the city offers combined with it being, a tourist area. New York's a tourist area, Orlando's a tourist area, New Orleans is a tourist area, San Francisco is a tourist area, L.A., which I'll probably go to at some point soon. Vegas, we're probably figuring WrestleMania in Vegas in a couple of years when the new stadium's built, places like that.
Burr says, do you think WWE will ever scale back the length of the Big Four? Surely they have to realize by now that shows 5 to 7 hours long are too long.
I cannot. There were a lot of people upset that worked late in that show for that very reason. So, and I think everyone, there's no doubt that WrestleMania was too long. 7 hours is just too freaking long. So, it actually wasn't. What's it, 2:30 to like 9:15? It was almost 7 hours. That's my time. So it's 5:30 to like 12:20 or 12:15, whatever the thing ended. Yeah, it was too long. And yeah, that's right. And hopefully these other pay-per-views aren't going to be like that too. I hope that they don't I think that these other ones are going to be 3 hours. I hope they don't make them 4. I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does, because it hurts the main events. And it hurts and means more buffer matches and more matches that aren't going to get over. But yeah, I think that, I don't know if 2 days of WrestleMania works. But at the same time, you kind of almost need it at this stage of the game, because I guarantee 2 3.5 hour shows would be a million times better than 1 7 hour show.
This person says, is the winner of the greatest Royal Rumble ever getting a title shot or anything?
Probably. They haven't officially said it, but you would think. You would think so.
This person says, since there were some NXT call-ups tonight and there's a superstar shakeup next week, does this affect the NXT stars as well on Raw? I'd assume the ones that come on SmackDown tomorrow, are they considered safe? If they're called up, they're called up, I presume.
You mean the idea that call somebody up and then the next week they switch?
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could do that for sure.
This person here says, with Asuka's streak over, Ember Moon on Raw, could this lead to an Ember Asuka program with Ember finally being Asuka? Also,
sure, why not? No reason not to.
Jinder pinning Rusev actually did play into the story, since in weeks prior, Jinder pinned both Orton and Rude.
Yeah.
I guess she's just pointing out that he's now pinned all of them. Well, that doesn't set up any challenges then for him, does it?
He still shouldn't have beaten Rusev. That wasn't the guy to beat on that show.
Let's see. This person wants to know if Paul Ellering could be perhaps managing Nakamura or Asuka.
I don't think so. Paul, it wouldn't be my choice. I think if they wanted to get a manager who could talk, there's other people that they could get. But, man, who knows? I don't think so, though. But it's like, because like I said, why would you introduce Paul Ellering and then have him disappear? Unless they're going to have him manage like another team against those guys? I mean, that would make sense based on what they did, but I don't think they're going to do it.
Person says, why doesn't Ring of Honor run on Friday instead? It feels like the weakness of the Hall of Fame would be a better night to compete with than NXT on Saturday. Hey, I'd be down with that. I didn't like him being head-to-head. It was too hard. Man,
I agree. I think a lot of people didn't watch Ring of Honor streaming. Some people didn't because it didn't work out well. But I think that head-to-head with NXT, a lot of people chose NXT. And, I I do agree. I think they should run on Friday night.
Bert says, any update on when the Melbourne show is officially being announced, or they're looking at main eventing with Rousey?
I mean, it's been announced, but I guess the big official press conference, I don't know a date for that.
Do you think that Vince was trying to pull a Steve Austin covered in blood that goes down fighting WrestleMania moment with Roman?
Yes. Didn't work out that way. I mean, that's always the goal, right?
It seems to be.
I mean, my goal is always, like every big show, is to create a new Steve Austin. Never going to happen, but that would always be my goal. It's like, yeah, I want to find a new Steve Austin, so I'm going to copy what got Steve Austin over. But yeah, didn't work out that way.
This person says, should we be worried about WWE using Daniel Bryan in a part-time role similar to Shane and Kurt Angle? From the commentary tonight, it sounded like he's GM for the long haul.
Yeah, I think that, I know he doesn't want to be. I know he wants to be a wrestler. I mean, he's in that Royal Rumble, but yeah, that's like a special show. Yeah, everything was still, everything was still to be determined about how often he'd be wrestling. So I think that, so I don't really have any answers still on him. But yeah, he shouldn't be in that general manager role. It's not what he wants. He wants to be a wrestler. The idea of him doing like 10 matches a year, I mean, that's okay, but that's not what he wants. He wants to be a wrestler and do, he wants to go out there and be like one of the best wrestlers in the business, not some part-time dude.
Person wants to know, what do you think the implications are now that Cena lost to Undertaker at Mania?
Nothing, John. There's no, it's like the only people who beat Undertaker at WrestleMania are Brock Lesnar, which was like that big swerve to give Brock Lesnar the monster push, and Roman Reigns with the idea that it would build to Roman Reigns being the biggest star in the company, which didn't happen. John Cena is not going to be put in that position ever. His day is over in that position. Whether it should be or not is a different story, but he's not around enough. He's got other commitments and a new life and everything like that. So when it comes to, put it this way, that match was going to be 3 minutes either way. So which would be better, John Cena beating him in 3 minutes or him beating John Cena in 3 minutes? I think him beating John Cena in 3 minutes was the choice. Normally I guess you would go with the idea that, I think that the big take is that Undertaker can't wrestle anymore, and they knew it, and that's what we got. That's why everything went down the way it did. And I don't know that, I think it would have been better to go out the way he did a year ago, because now it's kind of like he had this weird, I don't know. Maybe in a year they'll put him in another 3-minute match, but they pretty much tipped their hand. It's like he's too beat up.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to wrap it up here for today. This is God Only Knows. We did Thursday, 2 Friday shows, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we'll be back on Wednesday. So if you have been busy over the weekend with all the WrestleMania stuff, there's a lot of audio for you to catch up on. New back issue is up. New issue, I presume, is going to be out on Wednesday. And
perhaps.
Yep.
This it may be difficult.
Wednesday or Thursday, but it's coming soon, everybody.
Yeah, Thursday, without a doubt, Thursday. I'm not that far behind.
So all that stuff is up there, so check out the front page for more. Thanks, everybody, for the weekend, and that is it. We'll talk to you again after a while.